How do we get back into the zone? All right, everyone. How are you doing today? Good to see you. And welcome to my channel. I'm Thomas, and I do educational videos on a number of different subjects, mostly the fundamental subjects, but kind of a quantum version of those subjects, or a more fundamental view of them. Most of the time causes us to have to unlearn a lot of things before we relearn them. And I guess we'll be kind of talking about that today to a certain limited extent. But at least in this unit for the last few months and for another 1 month, we will be going over all the different aspects of the tree of life. I have compiled a list of the guide to the 144 different aspects of the tree of life that you can get for free if you just click the link in the description. I'll send that out to you. It'll help you, give you kind of a game plan or a scorecard as you go through these different videos in this series, the 144 different videos, so that you can follow along at home and be able to learn this stuff and remember it quite a bit more quickly. The tree of life I consider to be a foundational subject. If you can learn it and really understand it and kind of commit it to memory, then it'll make all the other subjects that we're going to study in this course much easier to negotiate. Okay, so now for the tree, this is what it looks like. This is the model, the tree of life, and this is goes all the way back to ancient Egypt, if not before. The ancient Hebrews used it. A lot of people use it still today. I learned my tree of life from the books called Annotated by Fractal Faculties, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, at the Osset Society. And he has some great books, but they are kind of narrowly focused toward a certain group, that the Osset Society that he runs. So I'm just trying to broaden the scope of it so that other people can benefit from some of his teachings, and change it up just a little bit to reflect, more of my understandings, and also to be just a little bit more inclusive. Okay, now the tree, as you can see, has 10 different circles or spheres, and they're numbered 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Then there is a thing here called the abyss, which is an implied circle or sphere, and then there's a 0 above the tree. Total of 12 different categories. These are the 12 major categories or major aspects of the tree of life. Now, if you take all 12, put them together, the whole tree, you apply the whole tree, but you shrink it down and you apply it to each one of the major categories. Then you break it down, you break down each major category into 12 different minor categories. So you have 12 here, 12 here, and 12 here, and so on, for a total of 144 different fractal faculties, or mini faculties, what I call the stages of life, stages of consciousness, stages of history, and stages of spirituality, and really stages of initiation. And again, that's something you can get for free if you just click the link in the description, and I'll send it out to you. It'll help you out, especially if you watch my videos. Okay, now I'm going to just go through the 12 major aspects here in this beginning for the next 15-20 minutes, and then after that I will be going over an example of one of the minor aspects. I do one of the minor aspects each day, and each day I give a shorter, but most of the video introduction to the whole thing. So each video is able to stand on its own. So anyway, the 10th sphere is our wild animal consciousness, the aspect of our consciousness that is concerned with survival, concerned with the state of nature, the law of the jungle, kill or be killed. It's also our life force, like the lowest aspect of our life force, which in the Chinese is called the Jing life force. And then this is also the Jing life force is like really our like unconscious ability to stay alive. So this is involuntary, subconscious, so to speak, or unconscious, where we are able to kind of keep breathing, keep our heart beating, digest our food, keep our temperature at approximately 98.6, and all those things that we don't have to, you don't wake up in the morning and say, I think I'm gonna be at 98.6 today. It's just, that's what we do. So, but we can foul that up, and that's, what's called the fever. If we eat the wrong foods, or we have the lust of the body, maybe we get really drunk, or we do something else that is bad for us, that's a negative 10th sphere. That's a defilement or a lust of the body. And then no longer is our body able to keep us, alive. We might just damage our life force, which will cause like something like a fever, where we will be inflamed and our temperature will go up. Or, if we do that over and over and over and over again, eventually our life force becomes too weak to even maintain, and that's what will cause death. So we can defile our life force if we go negative with the 10th sphere. But if we just leave it alone and we follow the basic laws that the humans were endowed with, then our life force will tick strongly. Okay, then we've got the 9th sphere, and this is really more like our domesticated animal. This is what we get, again, primarily subconscious. This is what we are getting in the home. When we're growing up, the first few years of our lives, when we have very heightened receptivity, we are soaking up everything like a sponge from our environment. Everything is fascinating because everything is new to us, and we are, we have a limited environment. We see kind of the same people all the time, and we watch what they do. They feed us and clothe us and clean us up, and so we become somewhat devoted to them, and we watch intently what they do, and we imitate what they do. We do what they do, and we have to practice that over and over again, because these different movements of the body are difficult to coordinate. Even the simplest things, like taking a spoon and putting it into your mouth is requires a great deal of coordination. We take it for granted at this point, but at this point here at the 9th sphere, it's totally new to us. So we might have to practice that for days or weeks or months before we get it. So we are highly receptive, and then we imitate our environment, and then we practice it over and over again until we've got it memorized. Okay, now the main problem with the 9th sphere is that it is blind. So we practice those movements even if they're harmful to us, or if they're harmful to others. Okay, then the 8th sphere is also basically blind, but this is really what you would call our normal waking state of consciousness, which is mostly unconscious still. But there is a conscious level here. And the A-sphere, where the ninth sphere is like the domestic consciousness, the A-sphere is out into public. So this is the consciousness that we get once we go out into public, and we build this up. In the public, we encounter the establishment and the institutions. This is what we get when we go to school, when we go to church, we go to the mall or the movies, or to the sports, stadium or whatever, and we see how other people are acting. We pick up from them the kind of the conventional wisdom, the basic way that you do things, and the A-sphere also installs upon us the belief systems. So the faculties of the A-sphere are the belief systems and the logical faculty, at least the lowest aspect of the logical faculty, the superficial logic, just your basic day-to-day logic, like, I have to pay money to get, something in return, or, I can't just like throw my garbage on the floor or on the ground. There are certain protocols that you learn here at the A-sphere. Now that is probably the useful form of the A-sphere, but when the A-sphere is run by the powers that be, the institutions and the establishment, they are deceivers, and they are distractors, deflectors, and so they don't necessarily tell you the truth. They tell you what you want to believe. So when they espouse their belief systems and their ways of behavior, they may not jibe with your personal experience. You may have experienced something differently, and so they end up creating this tension for you where, this is the consensus. This is where all the resources are located, and, this is the everybody knows that kind of space. So when you keep hearing everybody knows that, but then you're like, except for me, I don't see it that way. I don't get it. Why does everybody see it this way and I see it this way? So you end up creating this tension in your mind, and if you're exercising kind of like a negative A-sphere, where you're using negative logic, and one of the aspects of negative logic is like circular reasoning, when you use the point itself to prove the point, or when you're using what you call consensus thinking, where you think, just because everybody knows it means that it's true, which is a fallacy. Just because everybody knows it does not mean that it's true. So when you adopt that kind of thinking, then you end up with a negative A-sphere, and you kind of end up rejecting your own thinking about something in favor of what you perceive everybody else thinks. So again, this is the classic emperor wears no clothes type of situation, and there have been hundreds of scientific experiments done along the same lines, where people will end up committing the worst atrocities to other people just because some expert told them to do it, or just because they thought everybody else was going to do it, and they end up kind of rejecting their own way of thinking on this. So if you can keep your A-sphere upright, and again, look at the A-sphere, the 8, if you flip it upside down, it's still an 8. So it's difficult to tell whether when you've inverted the A-sphere and you've gone negative. But if you stay positive on the A-sphere, you recognize that the A-sphere is not the end, it's not the goal, and it's not the mark of success. It's just another sphere that you open up on your way to evolve to the higher consciousness. And so it's only the third one out of 12. And so it is not the most important, and it's not the be all end all. So if you can keep yourself upright, then you will get to the A-sphere, get what you need out of it, and move along. You know, open it up, but move along. But if you kind of let them invert the A-sphere for you, and you start rejecting your own experience in favor of what they tell you is true, you end up kind of getting stuck in here. Many people will be stuck in here for their whole lives. Other people will be stuck in here for their whole lives. And there are people who are stuck in here for their whole lives. So this is a very gradual, you know, evolution. You know, it's not something that you decide just in one day. You know, you decide it every day, and like it's the cumulative effect that, you know, eventually 20 years later you realize, oh, you know, I got stuck in this dead-end job, and you know, I could have been doing all these other things, and now you know, now it's too late. Well, it's never too late, but it is hard to kind of get back going again. Okay, so now if we move over here to the seventh sphere, the eighth sphere is about the real world, and the seventh sphere is the imaginary world. So we use imagination here at this faculty. That's one of the major components of the seventh sphere, and we do that. We would do this with our the imaginary world because we see problems with the A-sphere. And so we propose alternatives, or we try to propose alternatives. We use our imagination to get us going, and we also use the inspiration to get us going, where we have seen other people who've done the same thing or something similar. And so the same thing that we want to do. We haven't done it yet. We're just in the imagination stage at this point, but this is part of our building process. We've seen other people that have done it, who, you know, we consider to be role models or heroes, and so we can stand on their shoulders. We also can use our intuition, and our intuition is really a factor of our curiosity. And you could also call it conscience, and it's really the spark of our spirituality. We also have our spark of creativity here, our ability to put together things new. And then our intuition that we get from our spirituality or conscience is really to just wonder or ask about things inside, ask ourselves, and then go inside and we get the answers. Now it's another matter to be able to translate those answers to ourselves for it to make sense, and as a result, we have to really verify those intuitions as being true. We can't just accept them as in like an inductive or a deductive reasoning. Deductive reasoning stands alone, but if you use inductive reasoning, you need to verify what you've come up with. Okay, then also we've got the pleasure principle. So the pleasure principle is about putting things together in arrangements that are pleasing to you or to other people. Okay, all those things go together to formulate our creative mission, and really our creative products, such as poems or paintings or inventions that try to propose alternatives to this A-sphere. And this then finally at the top of the seventh sphere, we reach our creative mission or secret mission, which is, you know, unlike the A-sphere where they tell us, you know, you got to make a choice. You know, are you going to be a doctor? Are you going to be a lawyer? Are you going to be, you know, an astronaut? Are you going to be a banker? And here you are saying, I'm going inside. I'm going with my inspirations. and I'm using my imagination, and I'm coming up with the best version of myself. Not a cookie cutter, mission, but an individual mission for me that takes advantage of all of my best qualities and all of my affinities and the best way that I can help the universe, that I can serve the universe. And that's your creative mission. And that gives you the impetus, along with that inspiration, to move forward and move further up the tree. So as we move up, we get to the sixth sphere. And the sixth sphere is really our free will faculty. Our free will faculty is our ability to pay attention and to make decisions. This is the center of the tree. This is where we are located at our essence. And this is this is the main thing that we've got to get so we can move further up the tree. Now, what we find is that the first aspect of free will, our ability to pay attention, is generally fixated down here. We are paying mostly attention to the 8th and 9th sphere, and sometimes the 10th. So this is our comfort zone. We're accustomed to thinking this way and to being in these spaces. So this is where our attention is naturally focused. But we use the second aspect of our free will, which is our ability to make decisions. We can turn around our free will. And so we point it up the tree instead of down. And that requires courage, but if we can do it, then we really set the stage for our spiritual evolution. And we target our attention to start with at the 5th sphere, which is our sense of justice. And our sense of justice is otherwise known as karma. And karma bases itself on violence, waste, and violation. And so it's like, and karma is like a mirror that you put right here. And it's the enforcement of the natural law. And it's like, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. As you sow, so shall you reap. And what comes around goes around. And so when we act, we get the feedback in the same manner in terms of violence, waste, and violation. So if we act violently, we get violence in return. But if we are focused and paying attention, we will recognize that, and we will fine-tune our actions to eliminate the violence or to minimize the violence that we're creating. So we can clean up our own karma when we use karma as our teacher. Only the difficulties in life are the most educational. And so, when we get the negative feedback, that's what we're supposed to be paying attention to here so that we can change it. Same with the 4th sphere, where the 5th sphere is the enforcement of the law. The 4th sphere is the articulation of that law, the natural law or the universal law or order of things. And so this is how everything works, whether it's, the creator, whether it is what is our relationship to the creator, where did we come from, where are we going, what is the purpose of it all. All of these things go into the whole ancient holy books and the cosmologies. And if we pay attention to these things, then we can learn more about how we fit in, and we can maximize our mission. And we do this by paying attention to as many of these different cosmologies as we can. There are many, many, many cosmology. Each civilization or each group of people have one. Their creation myths. And then there's many scientists and other philosophers who've come up with their own. And so we pay attention to many of those, and then we use our intuition. We go inside and we say, well, I wonder how these all fit together, how to make sense of all of them together, and we get answers. And those answers, again, they need to be verified, but to the extent that they come, they are correct answers. But when we verify them, then we can move forward with confidence, knowing that we really understand the whole big picture and that we can proceed with confidence. And so then we end up proceeding here to this abyss, which we have to cross to get up here, and we get to the abyss, and the abyss is really our psychic powers. This is really our, boils down to our psychic receptivity and our psychic heat. The psychic receptivity is our ability to recognize omens. Omens are really magnetic charges that appear in our lives that are anomalous. You know, things that are very strange, that you cause you to remark like, wow, or something to that effect, where they're like outside the bounds of statistical probability. We have to be able to notice that those are communications for us, from the universe. They're communications to pay attention. And then the second part of the psychic powers is our psychic heat, and that's our ability to act upon those omens. When we notice the omen is also carrying with it a course of action. And so we have to follow that course of action. Again, it's requiring us to face, to be courageous, because it's going to require us to put ourselves out there and to do kind of inexplicable things to follow up on this omen. But if we can do that, then we gain that communication. We gain the bounty of that omen. Okay, then the 3, 2, and 1 that are above the tree, or at the top of the tree, are our divine faculties within. We have omnipotence, all-powerful, and we'll be talking about that today. And then we have omniscience, all-knowing. And then we have omnipresence, all-present, all at once, eternally. We tap this through sound synchronization, especially through shamanic drumming or sacred music or whirling dervish dances or through mantra. And then this is really our ability to kind of fulfill our sacred mission. And then we have, at the second sphere, this is omniscience, all-knowing. And this is wisdom. This is our ability to solve problems and to anticipate and solve problems. So we see into the future. And we do this not like at the A-sphere problem solving, which is by thinking your way out of it. This is done by not thinking your way out of it, by blocking out your trains of thought. You have the thought, but then generally you follow up the thought with a series of other thoughts, and then you're off into the weeds, and that's really how we dream. But then if you can just have the thought and bring your mind back to the meditation objective, that's how you shut down the thoughts. You clear your mind. When your mind becomes clear, it becomes transparent, and then you're able to actually see through your mind and see to the center of your mind, which is the higher self here at the first sphere. So this is an image of your higher self, and that's what wisdom is. This will give you the solution to your problems, the solution to other people's problems, and it will even give you the ability to avoid your problems entirely so that they don't even arise. And done through blocking out thought. Okay, then the first sphere is omnipresence, and we tap this through not only seeing the image of the first sphere, but actually being that image and merging with it. When we merge with it, it's a singularity. It's at the deepest center or core of our being, and it is also at the deepest center or the core of everybody else's being. And so as a result, it's a unification. We unify ourselves with the whole universe through this process. And then the 0 that's above the tree is the nothingness or the mystery of the universe, where we have no access to this. This is not part of the universe, and so it's a mystery. It's part of the creator. It's part of the creator, but it's the creator's private life, so to speak. So, it transcends the universe, but it is still part of the creator. And by kind of grasping this, we are able to grasp onto an inner peace. So that's really the zero sphere, is nothingness, mystery, and inner peace. Okay, now that took a lot longer than it usually does, but now we can go to one minor aspect of the tree of the 144 different fractal faculties, which again you can get for free if you click the link in the description. And today we're looking at number 103. How do we get back into the zone? And this here is coming from the third sphere, omnipotence, all-powerful, and it is the fourth fractal of the third sphere. So it's right here. The fourth sphere is about cosmologies, universal law, universal language, universal love. That's the universal order of things. And it's about success, major success, whereas the seventh sphere is a minor success. And so that's what we have here, is the fourth fractal of the third sphere. And those aspects are combined then in this particular minor aspect. It's called relit through smoothing over. Stage number 103 is about being poised enough in the delicate balance of synchronization to regain it and sustain it successfully. We love to be able to operate at that level of self-control. Relit through smoothing over. The mantra. Each one goes on all the time, whether we are chanting or not. We fell out of tune with it, but all we have to do is fall back in tune. Start the mantra again, and again, and again. If we are in tune with our personal mantra, then no insecurity can come into our heart. Sustained use of it will bring devotion. All the little moments we get are the perfect time to perform the mantra. Through devotion to mantra, we form standing waves from chanting. Excess chanting gets us back into the grooves of chanting. We get deep into it and experience the awesome power. But then we start congratulating ourselves for being such a good meditator and being so spiritual. By the time we realize it, we have slipped out of the mantra zone. Once we notice, we must practice menab. Keep the heart still and gently start over without any residual guilt or recrimination.